Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot, Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kison, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb, and like Zeb, yea, all their princes as Zebah, and as Zalmunna, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Let them be confounded and troubled forever, yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the Most High over all the earth. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people, and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces, and grind the faces of the poor, saith the Lord God of hosts?
What's up, family? So I'm going to read this article, then I'm going to show some things to validate my points, give some commentary. That's how this one's going to go. We, and myself personally, I got people coming on my comments on Facebook more particularly, but they starting to do it on YouTube too, calling me a racist and shit. I'm taking them comments down. You know, I don't be caring. I'll be leaving them up on Facebook if y'all want to see the ignorance of our opponents. You feel me? Like, they didn't come here and just erase the whole history and bury all this shit and come to our sacred holy land and desecrate it. If you look up the definition of desecration, y'all understand that's what they did to us. And that's what they do, you know. They got the Zion National Park, that's a holy, sacred land, and they keeping it as a commodity that they bring their kids to and show off. Like, how dare y'all tread on, like, yo, bro, read the prophecies in the Bible about that. Because I don't, you know, I'm not the one that's guilty of racism. I didn't come into your land, erase your culture, erase your history, claim to be you, and live deliciously in front of you and devour the fruits of your land. I'm not the ones who did that, bro. Y'all did that. And we worked this land. So y'all want to come into the truth here? This is your chance. I'm giving big drop here, you know? Hidden history, biblical mystery. Subscribe. Give me some drop. If y'all want better videos, I need a better computer. Subscribe to my channel so I can get into the partners program. And, you know, you can call it racism or you could take it for what it is. This is the truth. So I'm going to have the AI read this. Y'all can check it out.
Pioneers and early archaeologists preferred to credit distant civilizations, not Native Americans, with building these monumental cities. View of Monk's Mound from Woodhenge Circle. Photo courtesy of Sarah E. Byres. By Sarah E. Byres, February 22, 2018. Around 1100 or 1200 AD, the largest city north of Mexico was Cahokia, sitting in what is now southern Illinois, across the Mississippi River from St. Louis. Built around 1050 AD and occupied through 1400 AD, Cahokia had a peak population of between 25,000 and 50,000 people. Now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Cahokia was composed of three boroughs: Cahokia, East St. Louis, and St. Louis, connected to each other via waterways and walking trails that extended across the Mississippi River floodplain for some 20 square kilometers. Its population consisted of agriculturalists who grew large amounts of maize, and craft specialists who made beautiful pots, shell jewelry, arrow points, and flint clay figurines. The city of Cahokia is one of many large earthen mound complexes that dot the landscapes of the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys and across the southeast. Despite the preponderance of archaeological evidence that these mound complexes were the work of sophisticated Native American civilizations, this rich history was obscured by the myth of the mound builders, a narrative that arose ostensibly to explain the existence of the mounds. Examining both the history of Cahokia and the historic myths that were created to explain it reveals the troubling role that early archaeologists played in diminishing, or even eradicating, the achievements of pre-Columbian civilizations on the North American continent, just as the U.S. government was expanding westward by taking control of Native American lands. Today, it's difficult to grasp the size and complexity of Cahokia, composed of about 190 mounds in platform, ridge top, and circular shapes aligned to a planned city grid oriented 5 degrees east of north. This alignment, according to Tim Paquetá, professor of anthropology at the University of Illinois, is tied to the summer solstice sunrise and the southern maximum moonrise, orientating Cahokia to the movement of both the sun and the moon. Neighborhood houses, causeways, plazas, and mounds were intentionally aligned to this city grid. Imagine yourself walking out from Cahokia's downtown. On your journey you would encounter neighborhoods of rectangular, semi-subterranean houses, central hearth fires, storage pits, and smaller community plazas interspersed with ritual and public buildings. We know Cahokia's population was diverse, with people moving to this city from across the mid-continent, likely speaking different dialects and bringing with them some of their old ways of life. View of Cahokia from Rattlesnake Mound ca. 1175 AD, drawn by Glenn Baker. Image courtesy of Sarah E. Byres. The largest mound at Cahokia was Monk's Mound, a 4-terrace platform mound about 100 feet high that served as the city's central point. Atop its summit sat one of the largest rectangular buildings ever constructed at Cahokia. It likely served as a ritual space. In front of Monk's Mound was a large, open plaza that held a chunk yard to play the popular sport of chunky. This game, watched by thousands of spectators, was played by 2 large groups who would run across the plaza lobbing spears at a rolling stone disc. The goal of the game was to land their spear at the point where the disc would stop rolling. In addition to the chunk yard, upright marker posts and additional platform mounds were situated along the plaza edges. Ridgetop burial mounds were placed along Cahokia's central organizing grid, marked by the Rattlesnake Causeway, and along the city limits. Cahokia was built rapidly, with thousands of people coming together to participate in its construction. As far as archaeologists know, there was no forced labor used to build these mounds. Instead, people came together for big feasts and gatherings that celebrated the construction of the mounds. The splendor of the mounds was visible to the first white people who described them. But they thought that the American Indian known to early white settlers could not have built any of the great earthworks that dotted the mid-continent. So the question then became, who built the mounds? Early archaeologists working to answer the question of who built the mounds attributed them to the Toltecs, Vikings, Welshmen, Hindus, and many others. It seemed that any group, other than the American Indian, could serve as the likely architects of the great earthworks. The impact of this narrative led to some of early America's most rigorous archaeology, as the quest to determine where these mounds came from became salacious conversation pieces for America's middle and upper classes. The Ohio earthworks, such as Newark Earthworks, a National Historic Landmark located just outside Newark, Ohio, for example, were thought by John Fitch, builder of America's first steam-powered boat in 1785, to be military-style fortifications. This contributed to the notion that, prior to the Native American, highly skilled warriors of unknown origin had populated the North American continent. This was particularly salient in the West and Southeast, where earthen mounds from the Archaic, Hopewell, and Mississippian time periods crisscrossed the mid-continent. These landscapes and the mounds built upon them quickly became places of fantasy, where speculation as to their origins rose from the grassy prairies and vast floodplains, just like the mounds themselves. According to Gordon Sayer, the Mound Builders and the Imagination of American Antiquity in Jefferson, Bartram, and Chateaubriand, the tales of the origins of the mounds were often based in a fascination with antiquity and architecture, as ruins of a distant past or as natural manifestations of the landscape. When William Bartram and others recorded local Native American narratives of the mounds, they seemingly corroborated these mythical origins of the mounds. According to Bartram's early journals, Travels, originally published in 1791, the Creek and the Cherokee who lived around attributed their construction to the ancients, many ages prior to their arrival and possessing of this country. Bartram's account of Creek and Cherokee histories led to the view that these Native Americans were colonizers, just like Euro-Americans. This served as one more way to justify the removal of Native Americans from their ancestral lands. If Native Americans were early colonizers, too, the logic went, then white Americans had just as much right to land as indigenous peoples. Location of Cahokia, East St. Louis, and St. Louis sites in the American Bottom. Map courtesy of Sarah E. Byres. The creation of the myth of the mounds parallels early American expansionist practices, like the state-sanctioned removal of native peoples from their ancestral lands to make way for the movement of new Americans into the western frontier. Part of this forced removal included the erasure of Native American ties to their cultural landscapes. In the 19th century, evolutionary theory began to take hold of the interpretations of the past, as archaeological research moved away from the armchair and into the realm of scientific inquiry. Within this frame of reference, antiquarians and early archaeologists, as described by Bruce Trigger, attempted to demonstrate that the New World, like the Old World, could boast indigenous cultural achievements rivaling those of Europe. Discoveries of ancient stone cities in Central America and Mexico served as the catalyst for this quest, recognizing New World societies as comparable culturally and technologically to those of Europe. But this perspective collided with Lewis Henry Morgan's 1881 text Houses and House Life of the American Aborigines. Morgan, an anthropologist and social theorist, argued that Mesoamerican societies, such as the Maya and Aztec, exemplified the evolutionary category of Middle Barbarism, the highest stage of cultural and technological evolution to be achieved by any indigenous group in the Americas. By contrast, Morgan said that Native Americans located in the growing territories of the new United States were quintessential examples of Stone Age cultures, unprogressive, and static communities incapable of technological or cultural advancement. These ideologies framed the archaeological research of the time. In juxtaposition to this evolutionary model, there was unease about the vanishing Indian, a myth history of the 18th and 19th centuries that depicted Native Americans as a vanishing race incapable of adapting to the new American civilization. The sentimentalized ideal of the vanishing Indian, who were seen as noble but ultimately doomed to be vanquished by a superior white civilization, held that these vanishing people, their customs, beliefs, and practices, must be documented for posterity. Thomas Jefferson was one of the first to excavate into a Native American burial mound, citing the disappearance of the noble Indians, caused by violence and the corruption of the encroaching white civilization, as the need for these excavations. Enlightenment-inspired scholars and some of America's founders viewed Indians as the first Americans to be used as models by the new republic in the creation of its own legacy and national identity. During the last 100 years, extensive archaeological research has changed our understanding of the mounds. They are no longer viewed as isolated monuments created by a mysterious race. Instead, the mounds of North America have been proven to be constructions by Native American peoples for a variety of purposes. Today, some tribes, like the Mississippi Band of Choctaw, view these mounds as central places tying their communities to their ancestral lands. Similar to other ancient cities throughout the world, Native North Americans venerate their ties to history through the places they built.
Then we're going to do some things to back it up. Okay, so here's some stuff that's popular on my Facebook page. Now, first, we're going to start with this because I'll be saying, all the time that America is motherfucking ancient Egypt. So there's a lot of proof to that.
You would think this is somewhere in Africa. You would think this is somewhere in Egypt. But no, this is in Memphis, Tennessee, tore down in the late 1800s. You see the state column buildings in the back?
Now I'm gonna just give some commentary. They've tore down buildings like the State Column building. Look at the World's Fairs. They claim all that was made out of like paper mache and fucking plaster and shit. Hell no. Them niggas came here and destroyed our sacred holy land, bro. And then they living amongst us like they never did that. And then anytime reparations comes up, it's a big thing and a big issue. And then you hear them like, oh, why should we pay for what our ancestors did? Why are we paying for it right now? You see what I'm saying? They don't understand that. But there are some among them that understand this. They're righteous white people that understand this, and you'll be talking to them, and they'll be like, "I'll be like, this is all that will happen, and this and that." I'm like, and God's gonna destroy them and subject them to what they subjected. They'll be like, "Good, we deserve that," and I'll be like, "See, these are the people that's gonna stay." They're like, "Good, we deserve that." Anyone that could do the horrible things and lie about this history deserves that. Just like the book says, what's the patience of the saints in the Bible? But we're gonna move on.
Those buildings are still used today as Capitol buildings. You see the pyramids? We know the truth now. We know who built them. We've been here.
Okay, that's just one example. So that's just one example, guys. Like, come on. Okay, family. These are the murals of the Mayans in Mexico on the temple walls to this day. Look like Negroes to me. Wait, we're racist. Stop it. We're just too racist to take. The truth is just too racist. How dare you be upset that you find out the truth and you sacked our holy land and you live amongst us and you set up churches and we're the people of the book anyway. We're the people of the Bible and America is the Holy Land. Okay? That's why they picnicked us. That's why they persecuted us like that on this land. That's why we're still facing this persecution. Because that's the truth. That's the goddamn truth. That's irrelevant to this right now.
All right, so this is the self-righteous card that everybody seems to be playing in my comment section right now. Completely oblivious to me and my work. Understandable. And this is a new account. So here, I'll hit you with this one. There's been a lot of evidence, an overwhelming amount of evidence flooding the internet over the last couple of years that America is actually Egypt, Babylon, something like that. People who are in the flat earth community know that history has been severely tainted and altered. Anyone else think it's peculiar that with everything going on, we got that like acid rain storm cloud in a place called Palestine, Ohio? And more people are saying, oh, the Antichrist is going to be from Assyria. Assyria is like 30 minutes away from Jerusalem. So if that place on the map is actually in the United States of America, we're actually lined up perfectly.
Now look up Jerusalem, Utah. And then there's other places they claim Jerusalem is.
In this country for everything that's supposed to happen, which would explain why so many of God's true people are here. Thank you. Come again.
When I laugh at people like that, you're like, you're crazy. I'm like, I'm not crazy. Nigga, when they came here, there was free electricity everywhere in these countries. Everywhere they went, we set up Europe, okay? We put them on. They conquered us. They snaked us. That's the truth. Black people put them on. Black people are the Native Americans.
Right? Look at all those antennas. Think they were gathering lightning? Doesn't make any sense because then the whole place would burn down. But they're all over the place. You see this design all over the world, and even Harvard is asking, what is in these, and what do they do? Could they be brass balls with mercury in them? Then we look at some other designs, and we see that there's usually an antenna on top with some mercury below it, some copper, granite, and quartz, and these were actually energy generators.
Yep.
Sounds
Let's keep moving.
White people are scared to death right now, particularly white males. They're scared to death that they are going to lose their power in the future. And they are. But if you want to get ready for the future, if you want to be treated well in the future, treat others well in the present.
Wow, that was so hard to do. Forgive me if it's a little slow, guys. You guys came into our land and sacked everything. We're not doing that right now. Let's keep going. All right, these two are valid for what I'm talking about at this particular time.
Why is the government lying to us about history? There is a civilization as recent as 100 years ago that was omitted from the history books called the Tartarian Empire, and it was technologically far superior. They were able to convert atmospheric pressure into electricity, and as a result of unlimited free energy, they were able to direct their focus towards unity, oneness, peace, love, and harmony, which we don't see in today's society as there.
Now, they always want to spin them as white people. They colonized this land.
For entertainment purposes only. Let's see if I can break this down in 60 seconds. The Mormon Temple in Utah. The foundation was laid in 1847. Brigham Young laid the cornerstone in 1853. The story goes, after this long trek through the wilderness to get to their spot that they wanted to settle and build this grand temple, they decided they wanted to travel 20 miles back and forth with oxen, supposedly transporting blocks that were 2,500 to 5,000 pounds. Yep, and then these horse and buggy people built this castle that rivals any in Europe. This looks like a total photo op. What the narrative should say is this building was probably there for 1,000 years, harnessing free energy.
1,000 years.